So here is the review that I'm going to work through for your final, your second semester final. We're going to work through all of these sections. Remember that tonight's homework was just the first 3 pages. Number 1 says, write the equation of a line that has a slope of 3 and a y-intercept of 7. Well, if we remember that we have y equals mx plus b, where m is your slope and b is your y-intercept. So your equation would just be y equals m, your slope, which is 3, x, and then b is your y-intercept, and it's a positive 7. Number 2, write the equation of a line that has a slope of -1 and passes through points 2 and -3. So to do this one, alright, so we're going to do, this is my m here, my -1, this is my x, and this is my y. So we're going to plug it into the equation y equals mx plus b. So y is -3, so I get -3 equals my slope, -1, times my x, plus b, which we don't know what that is. We need to find the y-intercept. So this would become -3 equals -2 plus b. Add 2 to both sides to get b by itself. You get b is equal to -1. So now we have the 2 pieces of information that we need to write an equation. So my equation would be y equals -1x, or just -x, minus 1. And that would be your equation. On number 3, we have to write the equation of a line that passes through the points. But in this case, we don't have a slope, so we got to get a slope. So the way that we do this is we're going to use, this is x1, y1, x2, y2. And we're going to use the equation y2 minus y1 over x2 minus x1. And that'll give us our slope. So my y2 is 5 minus a -4 divided by x2, which is 0, minus x1, which is 3. 5 minus a -4 would become 5 plus 4, which is 9, over -3, which 9 divided by -3 gives us a slope of -3. Now we have a slope. The only thing else that we need is a y-intercept. Well, if you look right here, 0, 5 on a graph would be right on the y-intercept. So our y-intercept in this case is 5. So once again, we have our 2 pieces of information. We have our y equals m, so that would be -3x, and then our y-intercept, which is positive 5. Number 4, write an equation of a line that passes through these 2 points. So once again, we're going to need to find the slope, and then pick a point and plug it into y equals mx plus b. So I'm going to start by labeling these x1, y1, x2, y2, and then we're going to use the same formula right there. So we're going to have -2 minus 0 divided by 6 minus 2. -2 take away nothing is -2. 4 minus 2 is, or sorry, 6 minus 2 is 4. So that's the same as a -1/2. So now we have our slope, and we're going to plug it back into y equals mx plus b. And I'm just going to pick this point because it looks a little easier. So my y is 0 equals m, which we just determined was a -1/2, x, which is 2, plus b, which is the part that we need. So I have 0 equals a -1/2 of 2 would be a -1 plus b. So I'd add 1 to both sides to get b by itself. This would give us b is equal to 1. Now I have my two pieces of information, my slope and my y-intercept. So my equation is going to be y equals negative 1/2 x, and my y-intercept is positive 1. So that would be my answer. So here is problem number 5. It says if students in math class were surveyed after they took a chapter test, the teacher wanted to know if studying at home produced good test grades, which I think it should. After the survey was taken, the following data was recorded in the table. Use the data to answer questions 5 through 10. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to pause it. I'm going to try and make this scatter plot. It's a little difficult on the iPad, but I'll do my best, and then I'll come back to explain it. So here I've plotted my points, and it's kind of hard to do, but if you look at it, there's a positive correlation. It says pick 2 points that you feel best fit your data. Well, to make it easy, I'm going to pick this point right here, which is our y-intercept, and I'm going to pick maybe 366. 1, 2, 3. So those are the 2 points that I'm going to pick. The first point is 0, 29. The second point is 3, 66. So these are the 2 points. I'm going to record them: 0, 29 and 366. Number 7, it says write a linear model. And so to do that linear model, what we're going to have to do is we're going to have to find the slope. So to find the slope of the 2 points, label this x1, y1, x2, y2. So I'm going to do the slope formula again. So that's going to be 66 minus 29 divided by 3 minus 0. 66 minus 29 is going to be 37, I believe, over 3. So this is our slope, and our y-intercept is where it crossed the y. So our formula is going to be y equals 37 thirds x plus 29. If you go to number 8, it says, if you study for 4 hours, approximately what grade can you expect to earn on this test? So what we're going to take is 4, and we're going to plug it in for x. So you'd have 37 thirds times x, which in this case is going to be 4. And then you're going to add 29. So if I do 37 times 4 and divide it by 3, I get 49.3. Then I have to remember to add 29 to it. So I'm going to get about 78.3. So if you study for 4 hours, according to the graph and the information that we have, you should get a 78.3% on your test. The last one says, number 9, using your linear model, estimate the number of hours needed to earn a grade of 93 on your test. So what we're going to do here is we're going to set a y, we're going to put in 93 equals, and then our formula again is 37 thirds x plus 29. And then you're going to solve for x. So you're going to start out by minusing 29 from both sides. So that's going to give you 64 is equal to 37 thirds x. And then to get x by itself, we're going to multiply by the reciprocal. So the reciprocal would be times 37 thirds times 3 over 37. That would all cancel, leaving you with just x. So we'll have 3 over 37 times 64 over 1. And we're going to multiply straight across. So I get 192 over 37. And if I divide that, I end up getting 5.18. So that's how long you would have to study if you wanted to get a 93. 5.18, according to our model. Alright, so number 1, it says the lowest elevation is Mexico, is negative 10 meters at Laguna Salda. Write and graph the inequality that describes all elevations in Mexico that are greater than the lowest elevation. So I'm going to use x as the elevation, and we know that everything has to be greater than that negative 10. So we're going to graph this. I'd say negative 10. This would be an open circle, and the direction is to the right. And you can always look at your inequality, and it will point in the direction that you need to go. Number 2 said solve the inequality, graph your solution if a number line is given. So I'm going to start out by minusing 5 from both sides. And that would give me x is greater than negative 18. And we didn't need to put that one on a graph. Number 3, to get m by itself, I'm going to add 9 to both sides. That would give me m is greater than or equal to 5. So let's say I put 5 right here. This would be a closed circle at 5, and the direction would be to the right. Number 4, I have p divided by 2 is less than or equal to 5. Instead of dividing by 2, I'm going to times both sides by 2. Those two cancel, leaving me with p less than or equal to 10. So I'm going to have a closed circle here at 10, and this one is going to go to the left. Number 5, I've got n divided by a negative 4.5. So what I'm going to have to do is times both sides by a negative 4.5. So if you times both sides by a negative 4.5, over here this would cancel, leaving you with n. Because you divided by a negative, our inequality has to change direction. So it'll go from a less than symbol to a greater than. And then a negative 8 times a negative 4.5 is 36 positive. On number 6, we need to divide by negative 3. Once again, remember that if you divide by a negative, your inequality has to change directions. And this one has a number line, so I'm going to put negative 9 right here. This would be an open circle pointing to the left. Number 8, we have to get g by itself, so I'm going to start by minusing 11 from both sides. So I would get 2g is less than 14. Divide by 2, I would get g is less than 7. So this would be 7. It would be an open circle going to the left. Number 9, I would start by adding 4. So that would give me 2/3 r is greater than or equal to 5. And then I would times by the reciprocal to get rid of the fraction. If you do it to one side, you have to do it to the other. So I would get r is greater than or equal to 15 halves, or 7.5. Number 10, to get this negative 3x by itself, I'm going to start by minusing 1. So that would give me negative 3r is less than or equal to negative 15 plus 2x. I'm going to minus 2x from both sides. That would give me negative 5r, or x I guess, less than or equal to negative 15. Then I would divide by negative 5. when you divide by a negative, your inequality is going to change directions. And I would have x is greater than or equal to 3. So let's put 3 over here. This would be a closed circle going to the right. Number 11, I would start by distributing the 3. I would get 3q plus 3 is less than 3q plus 7. So now if I minus 3q from 3q, you'll see what happens here. I get minus 3q minus 3q. Well, those cancel and those cancel. I end up with 3 is less than 7. Is 3 less than 7? Yes, and that makes sense. So what we have here is that we have infinite solutions, meaning any amount that you put in for q is going to make it true. Number 12, I would start again by doing the distributive property. That's going to give me 8t minus 8 is greater than negative 8 plus 8t. So I'm going to start by minusing 8t from both sides. I get negative 8 is greater than negative 8, which doesn't make any sense at all. So this one is a no solution. Now let's take a look at number 13. So on this one, number 13, I'd start by doing the distributive property. So I'd have negative 6n. Negative 3 times the negative 1 is positive 3. Is greater than or equal to 1 minus 8n. Okay? And I'm going to try and get my variable on the left-hand side, so I'm going to add 8n to both sides. That means that I'll have a positive 2n plus 3 is greater than or equal to 1. Then I'm going to minus 3 to try and isolate my variable. That gives me 2n is greater than or equal to negative 2. I'm going to divide by 2 on both sides. That gives me n greater than or equal to negative 1. So if here is my negative 1, it's going to be a closed circle going to the right. And that completes the first 3 pages, our first phase of getting ready for the second semester final exam. Good luck.